Welcome back to the Warrior Servant Leader podcast. We are so glad you're joining us today, and we have a great guest. And boy, this is going to be an interesting one because we're titling this one "Free Speech, Retaliation, and the Cost of Integrity." Today, we're going to have Erik Holt join us, and in April of 2022, he left the federal service after 18 years to spend more time raising his daughters and actually accepting a fire police. I'm so used to saying police, a fire chief position at a small rural department in Colorado. Within a year, with the support of an outstanding board and dedicated personnel, Erik and his team transformed that fire department from 5 to over 60 trained, qualified, and dedicated personnel. Then came May of 2023. Election time, and for the first time, all five board seats were up for election. Erik, as the fire chief, received complaints from citizens regarding irregularities at the polls. So Erik did the right thing. He sat down and he reviewed 48 hours of surveillance footage and discovered clear evidence of coordinated election misconduct. And then he put on that warrior hat and followed his legal and moral obligation and reported the findings to the district attorney's office. That decision changed everything for Erik. Erik, welcome to the show, man. We're so glad to have you. And we're going to jump into this.
All right, Pat. Well, hey, I appreciate it. I'm glad I got a rival mustache to compete with on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have to wax mine, man. You got to use the wax. That's too much work. I just let it
Yeah.
go long and go crazy. So Erik, not diving into the facts and circumstances of what happened because it's still kind of ongoing in the court system. I really was touched by and impressed by how you displayed yourself as that warrior servant leader in standing up and showing up and defending what you believe and doing the right thing, putting the wants and needs of your community before your own, because this has taken quite a toll on you personally and professionally. And then some of those leadership lessons that you have learned and leadership skills that you used when you took the initiative to follow up on these complaints and actually go to the district attorney's office. So, kind of from that perspective, tell us what were some of the hardest challenges and obstacles that you faced in trying to do the right thing at the right time and the right way and for all the right reasons.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're not going to get into it, but everybody can go to my socials. Like the situation at this point is pretty well documented, so we'll put that out at the end. But I first and foremost, I'm a single dad of two daughters, two teen girls. So when I took this job, I had been granted full custody by the court, and so a lot of this was just a personal, you know, situation that I wanted to be home with my kids. I loved station life. I loved hanging out with the dudes. I loved running operations and calls and all that stuff. But um, when family dynamics change, you adjust to it, and I did that as a dad. So I put in and I got this fire chief's job up in Teller County, Colorado, Florissant to be exact, and everything was amazing for a while there. But when you're faced with something again, like I talk about this about a morality fire in your belly, and that's it's tough to place yourself into a position when you're struggling internally with like my best interest this whole time was to not get involved, right? The board of directors election happened. Those people control my fate. It's not in my best interest to go against those people. But even as a single dad with my livelihood on the line, that morality inside of me and the oath that I've taken, both as a soldier and in the fire service and just as a citizen of this country, led me to make the decisions that I did. It's nothing I could turn away from. And so, in doing that, I had to protect not only myself and my children, but I had 60 some odd people that relied on me as their leader, and a whole community. My district served about 6,000 people. And so when the democratic process is potentially wonky, let's say, you know, I was the only person that could really stand up and get in the way of that and affect at least knowledge of what was going on, man. It's been a tough situation. It was a very tough decision to make. I always talk about that. I sat down on the edge of my bed one night as this was sort of coming to fruition, this whole scenario, and I had an out loud conversation. Can you turn away from this? Can you be selfish and do what's best for you and your kids? Or are you going to be a good, upstanding person and do the right thing, no matter how hard that battle is, and
Mm.
defend something greater than you? And obviously, because I'm on the show and we're talking about it, I chose the latter, where it put me in a very tough situation, and it's cost me a lot. But the fight continues, and the fight's not over. So, you know, it's been 2.5 years, but we are on a pretty fast pace now towards getting some rectification of the situation. But even that, increased pace takes months and years. I mean, that just is what it is. Um, if I had to go back, would I make the same decision? 100%. It was the right thing to do. Uh, this journey has not been easy. It's been very tough. It's been very hard on my kids. But again, it was the right thing to do, and our country's worth something fighting for. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And to be even more specific as how tough it's gotten, you actually had to move out of Colorado and relocate to another state just for what? That was the best thing to do for you and the family? Um,
no, I mean it was a necessity. The folks that you know committed the violations or broke the law, if you want to go that far with it, blackballed me pretty hard, man. I mean, they held a meeting to fire me with and rented the commercial popcorn machine and lemonade dispensers, and they made a spectacle out of it. They guarded
huh.
their interest, and so I was blackballed really, really hard. And so, when I get fired, I don't have an income. I had nothing.
Yeah.
So I went from being a fire chief to having to file a lawsuit and pay attorneys. The only asset I had was my home. So I sold my home, paid my attorney, I, I can't even tell. I mean, over $100,000, at that point in time. Um, and it landed me living in a camper in my stepdad's backyard with my kids and my girlfriend, fighting for the truth and fighting to get justice on a situation, which I still continue to do. I've found work. I'm not a fire chief anymore and work in the fire service anymore because I was blackballed pretty hard. But I am working. We're rebuilding life, and things are good. My kids are blessed. They are absolute amazing children that have been supported through this. And uh, my oldest is now working on an ambulance service. She's 18, been out of school for
Wow.
like 6 months already, a nationally registered EMT, working at the ambulance. So my youngest is a freshman and kicking butt, and they get good grades, and they're good kids. And as an envelope of what matters in life, that's the top prize. And I mean, we're doing really well. Given the circumstances, it's not easy, but it's worth the fight. And my kids have learned lessons that you know, uh, I think will carry them into adulthood in a very strong way, and they'll be good, upstanding citizens of our country. Well,
That's incredible because I semi relate to you. I didn't get fired. They tried to. When I say they, it's the executive level of the police department that I was with. Tried to one get me first indicted, then the DA's office laughed him out of the office, and so I got the specs and charges, and was found guilty literally in about 30 second hearing, and they told me to forfeit my right to appeal the disciplinary decision, or I was going to be fired. And so I
Yeah.
called my wife and I said, in fact, it was on Good Friday, 2000 and whatever, uh, which I thought was kind of uh, symbolic or ironic. And told her, what the decision was. And she goes, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to tell him fire me." And she said, "Okay." So, and we'll make ends meet, and we can survive. And I would appeal because I wasn't going to forfeit my rights. And long
Of course.
short of it is, when I told them to fire me, they changed their mind, and then they told me, "We'll take a 30-day suspension, or if you forfeit your right to appeal it, or you'll be suspended for 30 days." And I told them to pound salt, and they gave me a 10-day suspension. And I appealed it and won in an arbitration hearing. And it was the same thing, very similar. When people act out of maliciousness and they act out of they're arbitrary and capricious is the legal terms probably were used in your lawsuit. Is it's so disheartening that people hate someone so much they would go to those extremes. How is that? And I'm not talking about being a victim. I'm talking not a victim mentality, but that when you have a moral compass so strong as you have, and somebody violates that as if they're playing God in your life, how do you deal with that?
Um, I think anybody that has to get into a situation like this has to have that inner fortitude. I mean, I've never wavered one bit. I know justice will be had. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And these people did everything they could to cover their tracks. Believe me. They hired an attorney that sort of, it seems to have guided them through how to go about this, and they've discovered redacted documents that now I'm going to challenge to get unredacted and all this stuff. But
Yeah.
um, it's crazy. I had a lot of places within uh the story that have let me down, right? So first it was the board, obviously taking their actions once I cooperated with law enforcement. The DA's office dropped the ball. The federal court in Denver, I think made a horrific ruling, which is now on appeal. And I think finally at the appellate court, I'll get the victory, which, all things considered, that is the path that I do prefer. If the appellate court reverses the district court, it's case
Mhm.
law enshrined forever, and it protects public servants forever. So, although it's not the easy path, nothing along this journey has been the easy path. Believe me. Sometimes the harder paths are the better ones to take because they have a more lasting impact. And so, I think the morality and knowing I made a conscious decision to place myself into this scenario.
Mhm.
I could have turned a blind eye. I had that option, right? I could have played ball with potentially election fraud and whatever would have come next by the people that had carried that out, right? Because you never know,
Yeah.
like they get away with that and nobody finds out, then what do they do?
Yeah.
And so it's life gets real easy when you have a clear conscience, is what I'll say, man. And I can look my kids in the face and know that they respect the decisions that I made. And at the end of the day, man, you can only take so much from a person, but I had two daughters. So the way that my two daughters view me as their father and me as a man is more important than anybody else in this world could ever amount to. And so that makes it pretty simple at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I don't know where it came from. I use it all the time, but I've never been able to recall how I actually heard this. Was Yeah, if you turn a blind eye to something, eventually you will be blind in both eyes, and that's always been
Yeah.
a very good adage or motto for me in some of the stuff that I've had to go through. Having gone through it in a similar way, and you're still going through it. Um, have you given, and so everybody knows, I I'm like an open mic kind of guy. You and I didn't give you any questions. You didn't give me any questions. So if this one's out of bounds, feel free to say, you know what, I'd rather defer on it. But have you crossed into that arena yet for forgiveness? That in for your own personal self, not that you have to go to these five people or anything like that, but where are you at as far as that mindset of I'm never going to forgive or forget what happened to me and that kind of stuff. I don't know if I'm phrasing it right, but
No,
it took me
no,
five
I get it.
years. It took me 5 years.
Yeah, I don't think I don't live with hate in my heart. I'll say, right. I don't hate anybody.
Okay.
I won't ever forgive the actions that people took consciously that damage the livelihood for my kids. I think the world has a way of taking care of some things, right? And so I won't take joy in watching other people's suffrage.
Yeah.
But I think Mark Twain said one day, like, I'll never hate anybody, but I'll read obituaries with great pride one day. Um,
Yeah.
you know, that's
No, I
that
get
is
it.
just what it is, right?
I get it.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
we
and
had
that doesn't come from a bad place.
and that's good. And it's I I didn't have that same perspective. Literally for 5 years, I was angry because I still had to work for this person in the chain of command kind of stuff. And it took me 5 years to, like you said, you sat on the edge of your bed. Mine was in some quiet time where I actually out loud said, I forgive so and so for what they did to me. And that took that burden off of my spiritual life. And
Yeah.
we had a guest on. He actually did get indicted. Kelly Smith was on several months ago, and he was a constable, elected constable down in Texas, and the FBI actually got him federally indicted, and he was found not
Wow.
guilty, and it was absolute corruption, horrendous set of circumstances, and Kelly and I got into the conversation about forgiveness, and he came up with one of the best things I've ever heard, and he goes, sometimes you just have to let Judas walk away, and and that's how he resolved it with that just like Christ, let Judas walk, even though you know what the consequences and everything were going to be. And I thought that was a really impactful way of addressing the whole arena of forgiveness. So, what's next? I mean, next for you? I know that when the Court of Appeals makes their decision one way or the other, that's going to dictate some legal next steps. But how about you? Personally, professionally, and your kids. Where are things at? Man, if you lost everything by selling your house, basically, what's that look like? How can
Um,
people help you?
yeah, let me kind of break down the court stuff first. So I actually have three cases still going. One, I'm waiting on a panel assignment at the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. Um, and what that comes down to is the judge in the District Court of Colorado said, basically, in her opinion, she granted summary judgment dismissing my case, saying that I didn't have a First Amendment protection because she viewed me as the fire chief having the responsibility um, of reporting election fraud to the district attorney. She thought somehow that that was what I was paid to do, and also made some misjudgments and kind of, I don't know where she got it because it was in the record that this wasn't accurate, but said that I was the only one that had access to that security system footage. Therefore, I'm the only one that could have done it. When in fact, it was a third party company that I had to go to. I paid out of pocket and got that footage through basically, everybody understands FOIA, right? Like it's a public tax funded
Right.
building. So we're challenging that. There's plenty of case precedents that says that you're employed to do one thing. What do you get paid to do? Well, I was a fire chief, and I think most people understand what that is. I'm not paid to investigate elections. I'm not paid to administer elections. And you can't have a ruling that says I was the only one to access when in reality that's not true. So I do expect an appellate victory, which would remand it back to the same judge in the federal court of Colorado for trial. But what that does is that affirms that I am protected by the First Amendment, and it does affirm the law of the case stands, and now you have to go to trial. And
Mm.
so when you file a lawsuit, one thing I didn't understand before is when I got into this 2.5 years ago, I thought, well, this will be easy. I'll take the evidence to a jury. The jury will see, what it is. It's when people do see this, it's there's no question about it, right? Like, it's pretty insane what was caught on footage. Uh, and then my life would be put back together. I'd get my job back. These people would be, dealt with, whatever. Um, that is pending. So hopefully February, March timeframe, a panel assignment reviews my case, and
Mhm.
we'll go from there. Sometimes it takes a few months. So hopefully by summer, I'm back at the federal court. My statute was running out. So in the federal court, one of the complaints was wrongful termination. Um, the federal court judge said it's not the jurisdiction of the federal court for that. So as we were going through that, I eventually, by myself, pro se, representing myself legally, filed another lawsuit in the state court for breach of contract and wrongful termination.
Okay.
I have been doing that by myself and holding my own so far. So I have defeated multiple attempts to have it dismissed. We are now entering into discovery where I actually just won a victory on a motion to get rid of this thing called simplified procedures, which is kind of like a narrow discovery. And now I get to do full discovery. So I'm going to get to depose these people here pretty soon. And then unfortunately, the attorney that I had that I had paid over like 100 some odd thousand dollars is now suing me because they say that I owe them more money than what I paid. I just found that out, so unfortunately that sucks, but I'll deal with that.
Mm.
And then one other little nuance in this is during my appellate brief. So originally I was doing that pro se. I have since had Mountain States Legal Foundation come on board and they represent me, which is a huge victory in and of itself. But while I was doing my own briefs, I discovered something that was pretty shocking to me. And just to give a quick overview of that, these people that were caught on security camera fired me June 22nd. So it took a few weeks. I think July 14th, 2023, my federal lawsuit gets filed. Um, they get served the 21st, which happened to be a Friday. Or no, maybe I have that. Maybe it was the 26th. Anyways, they hire a law firm, right? Well, this law firm is Vaughn and DeMuro Law out of Colorado Springs, Colorado. And within a few days, this all happens behind the scenes. So I don't know of this until I'm looking through, thousands of pages of stuff. Um, on August 1st, 2023, the DA's office dropped the criminal investigation and didn't charge anybody. And I never had the answer as to why. Well, as I'm going through all of these thousands of pages of stuff, I find the name of the guy with the authority. He's the number two. He was the chief deputy district attorney, and his name was Andrew Vaughn. Remember that the law firm was Vaughn and DeMuro. So I sent this off to a private investigator, Kinetic Investigations out of Atlanta, or I think Evans, Georgia, um, just so it was away from the situation, right? I get a report back. It's father and son. So principal attorney at the defense attorney's law firm is Gordon Vaughn, and his son within let's give it the widest date range I can come up with is 7 days, but it looks to be about three. Um, his son cancels the criminal investigation for his dad's clients. And so talk about a huge conflict of interest. So now we're going down this other path of I gave the DA's office in El Paso County the opportunity to rectify the situation. Uh, they chose to kind of continue to cover the tracks here, and Again, everything's caught on high definition 4K video. They claim that they couldn't see anything. And again, please go to my socials. You can actually watch the actual videos. But uh, now it's DOJ level basically. So we're
Wow.
talking to the DOJ about corruption in the El Paso County DA's office. So that is ongoing. So that's where we're at with the court stuff. On the personal side of things, I found a new job. I make enough money to have a home again, and my kids have what they need. So it's a crazy situation where I went from being a fire chief in a local community, making good money, having a beautiful home. I had 8 acres there in the mountains of Colorado. Everything was going super well in life. To living in a camper in my stepdad's backyard while I looked for a job. It took me over a year to find a job. Hundreds and hundreds of interviews. I'm extremely qualified in the firefighting work, and yet I couldn't break through. Right, so we know why that is. I found a job that's outside of firefighting that we're doing well on, and so life is rebuilding, is what I'll say. I am massively in debt. Everything I had earned in life, I gave to an attorney who's now suing me for more. So anybody out there that wants to support the fight, it's very hard for me as a dad and just a pretty proud person to ask for donations. But I do have a GoFundMe and a Give Send Go, whatever platform people want. You can find it Justice for Holt. Um, and I would appreciate it. I mean, that just keeps the fight going. I don't have that attorney anymore, and I do have a legal fund that represents me in the federal court, but I still have to pay for all the filing. So just filing something in federal court, a
Yeah.
couple $100. So I think just to file the notice for my appeal was like $500, right? And I'm in the state court now. I have to do depositions. So um, what I'll say is on TikTok, Facebook, and X, everything is at Justice for Holt, or YouTube actually, Justice for Holt. I'll give you the links. You can throw them in. You can follow the story. You can see all the footage. You can hear me explain the story. So how this all began was when I lost my case on summary judgment. My good buddy uh, Fregosa, he owns this company called Collecting Heads Media. One of my best friends from high school. He said, "Dude, you need to just start telling people your story." And I was just beaten down at that point. I was literally like living in a camper. And so I literally just took my cell phone and started telling, 10-minute segments of that. And I went all the way through the story. And then it started to kind of gain some steam. And now I do some interviews but it's all fully documented for your listeners. So please go to Justice for Hope
Yeah.
again on TikTok, X, Facebook, and YouTube. It's all there for people to really understand the situation and the story.
That's awesome. That's I, I can't imagine what you've been going through. So were you stationed at Fort Carson, or you said you
I
were a
was I was
soldier?
with Fort Carson Fire for about 13 years. That's where I was at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so that so you're a veteran, and um,
Yep.
and coming from Colorado. So, man, any kind of really, I don't want to say deep, but what's the biggest message you want folks that are listening today to grasp, and that they could go, man, uh, I'm just trying to think of how to put this that um, that touches them deeply, and go, hey, I want to be able to help this guy out.
Well,
I,
this isn't about me, Pat. I mean, first and foremost, right? So I have firmly believed. You did touch on it. I'm a veteran. I served in Iraq and Ramadi, Iraq, 2005, 2006. I grew up in a good America, and I think our country,
mm,
despite what you see on the TV, is worth fighting for. And so, if you're a public servant in any way, right? If you've ever taken an oath to defend the Constitution, the laws of the state,
mm,
your community, it goes beyond what you may think, right? And so I took an oath as a soldier. I took an oath to be a fireman, and I've taken many oaths all the way up to fire chief, right?
Yeah.
Um, that oath is deep and it has to be embedded in you. And so for me, election integrity was not a fight I wanted. It was not anything I was passionate about. I was really good at firefighting. I was really good at leading. But something happened that challenged what I felt was unacceptable for the
Yeah.
America I want my kids to have. And so, although it wasn't something I had knowledge of or had experience in, I had to do the right thing. That was my duty, right? Duty goes deep. And so,
Hmm.
whatever situation anybody out there gets into, I will always say, no matter how hard the journey is, millions have given their lives to defend this country. My sacrifice has not been my life. And so my sacrifice is actually pretty easy in the grand scheme of things. I know soldiers that died overseas. I know many firemen that have given their lives um, to their communities. And so, how selfish would it be for me to just say, "Oh well, I want to protect my livelihood. I have these two kids." What a way out that would have been, right? But I would have been contributing to the bad side of what our country could become rather than upholding the values that we truly are founded on. And America's a really good place. And so that's just my 2 cents of why I did what I did and why I continue to fight is because I have put two children on this earth that I have to pass the world off to, right? As they come into
Right.
adulthood. So they've learned some valuable lessons. They've watched their dad in the hardest moments choose to do the right thing with integrity. And integrity has come at a cost. But that's not the final. We will come out ahead on this, no matter
Yeah.
how hard it is or what the journey was. But easy compared to giving my life, right?
Yeah. No, I totally get, man. You are a credit, and to our country, and I'm speaking as a naturalized citizen. I mean, I I have that deep uh, appreciation for the freedoms and everything we have here. I wasn't born in this country, so so thank you. Thank you. And I know people say it to you. Thank you for your service. I am saying from the depths of my heart, thank you. And what a honor you are and a credit you are to parenthood, to fatherhood, to the country. So, man, I hope our listeners out
Thank you.
there give one more time how they can, if they want to help you and follow your story, uh, for starters, and if they can help you financially, where do they go to do that?
Awesome. So again, my social media is YouTube, X, TikTok, and the most active is Facebook. So Facebook is the best way at Justice for Hope. Okay. GoFundMe. I don't. The link is a lot of characters, but if you just search Justice for Holt, and then give send go Justice for Holt, I will be launching a website here to put all my interviews, all of my updates here soon, and we are working on like a book to kind of put this all into, but that's going to wait till the appellate court. But all I'd ask is, at a minimum, please go follow my account on Facebook. The more reach I have, the more I can share. If you can and you want to help contribute to the legal fight, that's all it's for. It's not to enrich us in any way. It's for legal filings. It's for depositions. It's transcripts, all
Right.
that stuff to prove the case. Give, send, go, or GoFundMe.
Okay. Awesome. Uh, yeah. Speaking as a lawyer, I can really appreciate what kind of bind you would be in the financial arena. And one last thing, I want to make a point of that this thing was so egregious and so corrupt that to the point where you were told to destroy all the 48 hours of footage that you paid to get out of your own pocket that shows their election interference and corruption. So we're not talking about just a personality. Oh, they couldn't get along. As it was that corrupt that they literally ordered you to destroy the evidence.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Not necessarily destroy it. They wanted access to destroy it themselves. So these people never actually got officially seated. There's supposed to be a transition from old board to new board. But due to the criminal investigation that got opened, they just sort of said, "We're in power. We're taking. We're seizing," and then they immediately went and froze the bank accounts, which is insane. And then they ended up firing me on a reason that bills didn't get paid after they froze bank accounts, which was bank fraud because they weren't even on the bank accounts when they froze it.
Wow.
So it's just a heap of craziness. But I do have the before they even like claimed power, I got an order for like, here's your, your marching orders basically. And number one item was tell us where the surveillance system is located and the login and password for it. I don't think they knew that it was a third party company that maintained that at the time. But so they sent that like 10 days before they seized power, and then the day after they claimed to have seized power, I got another email, and that email is up on my socials on Justice for Holt, because my whole thing when I lost my summary judgment, I started documenting the story, was I don't care about the legal fight. I truly don't, right? Except I do, the protections that will come for other public servants in the appellate court.
Yeah.
That's law. They can't really argue like the semantics of stuff, right? So I haven't hit anything. I literally put the security footage on my Facebook. I literally put emails and um if you guys would scroll to the bottom of my accounts, you'll see like the very clunky ones where it's just me holding my phone talking, but I
Yeah.
literally show all the evidence. And that's how this all began, man. And now, I hit like 400,000 views on some of my clips, and then I've had interviews that have done over 100,000. I'm about to go on a real big podcast in 2 weeks, Cleared Hot, with Andy Stump. So like it's growing, I just had
Right.
one with Bubba Army that posted last night. So I'm just very active in putting it out. And I'm not trying to promote other shows, but
No,
it
it's all
went
right.
from me never making a video in my life to recording on my cell phone, where it's like staring at my chin, to, like people now are hearing the story. And so back to what you asked earlier, like about the hatred or forgiveness, I don't have to live with it. These people do, right? Their neighbors are going to know, or already do know. When bad things happen in their life, they have to assess whether that's karma. I'm free of all of that. So, this is all about sharing what took place and exposing corruption at every point. I never wanted to take the DA's office on, I can tell you that.
Oh
But
yeah.
when I found corruption, I put it up on my socials. Here you go, people. This is what's taking place. They've taken from me all that they can take. And now it's my turn. And the court of public opinion and the legal courts will decide the end result there, right? I
Wow.
don't have to be judge and jury.
That's a great perspective to have, and I really appreciate you for that and for sharing it. Our audience out there, I hope you walk away from this today's podcast with an understanding of seeing the reality of always striving to do the right thing at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons. That everyday people have to make those decisions every day of their life. So reach out to Erik, follow him, support him, and do everything you can. Keep him in your prayers. And I think that's going to be a wrap for today. And if you will, folks out there listening, definitely share this episode with somebody who needs to hear the message. So thank you. Until next week, be safe, be a warrior, be a servant, and be a leader.